let's continue with the resource loaded schedule when you already have scheduled 16 days without considering the resources. And now we consider the resources with mention and helper. First, we need to define your resources in the Microsoft project. How to define? If you go to the the top left, you see the Gantt chart, drop down, you select the resource sheet in here, resource sheet. Then you divide the resource name, in this case, the mention, and the helper. And it, as you can see, it automatically back the initial M and H maximum 100%. So it means one unit, one mention, one helper is 100%. If you don't want to see that percentage, you want to see that in decimal one, then you can go to File, Options, select the schedule, and instead of you see the show assignment unit as percentage, you can drop down, select decimal. You may change the format of your anything in here. You can change the date that look here format. You can change different time format. Okay, so here I just make it simple in there. Okay, so now you see that instead of 100%, it will be 1. Now the problem give us the maximum of mention is 5, and the helper we have is 2. So we now define the resources. Actually, you be able to put more detail. For example, what is the standard rate of the mention? How many hourly wage you pay for them? If it overtime, how much you will pay? It all that can be show it in here. After you define the 2 resources, you can go back to the Gantt chart by on the top left. And then now we already define resources. The next is how to assign the resources into each activity. So as you can see, the problem is problem 1. Activity A, we have 2 mention and 1 helper. B, 2M, 1 helper. 2M, 1H. So similarly, we just go ahead to assign. I just do slowly one activity, and then you can repeat for the other activity. Right click on that activity A, select information. Last time when we define the predecessor, we go to predecessor tab. Now we define resources, we go to resources tab, and you just go ahead to assign them. How many units for mention? 2. So go ahead to buy 2, and then helper 1, right? 1. Okay, and then similarly for B, 21, C 21. So go ahead. Resources, mention 2, helper 1. C, resources, mention 2, and helper 1. And then activity D, we have 1 mention, activity E, 3 mention, and activity F, 3 mention. So D, right click, resources, mention 1, E, resources, mention 3, F, resources. If you know yes, you can go down fast in there, 3 mention. And then G and H, 1, 2, and 1, 1. G, one, helper 2, H11 helper 1. And then we have J22, K21. J two and K21. L32 and M21. L32 and M21. So let's check, we have all good. So we already assigned resources. And then when you assign it, the resources, and you can see if the column resource names, they give you the name of resources and how many people or what is the quantity of that resources. If you use material, then for example, how many cubic yards, etc. And it's so also in your bar chart. So when you have that, you see on the information column indicators, need some red person in here, symbol, that show your resource is over allocated. It means that to achieve 16 days, actually you need more than, for example, 5 mentions and 2 helpers that you are already available. So this, how to see that, if you go to Gantt chart on the top and select resource graph, and then you can see the graphic that show the mention are over allocated on certain day, Friday, all of that, the red, because we have 5, but here at some day you have 8, 7, 6, etc. If you see on the left side, the bar here, if you move to the right, you see the helper, it also over allocated. If you move back to the left, you see the mention, right? And then if you want to see both the schedule and the resource graph, you can do that with combination view. How? When you go to view tab, you can select other views, and select more views. Okay, more views. And then you can select new view, and single view is mean only one thing show in the screen. If you want multiple, 2, then the combination view. Select OK, and then you can name that view you have, so you can see the Gantt and resource graph, for example. And then the primary view, the top one, you can select Gantt chart, and the detail panel at the end, you can say select the drop down resource graph. And then you can say, you may decide whether it show it in menu or not. You can select no or say it in menu if you normally use it. Okay, so you say I don't show it, not show in the menu here. Then you can apply, and then you can see 2 graphics show up, and they don't see anything there because you haven't select any resource yet. If you move your cursor to any activities, and now you see the graph of your resources in here mentioned, and then you can select for if that activity have both helper and mention, you can move the graph to see. So that is the combination view of Gantt chart and resource. And now you see over allocated. How can we do to make sure that the project at any given time, it yields 5 or less mention. At any given time, it yields 2 or less helpers. So before I go to that, I just go to here, and you can see, go to project. If your project start, I put it today, but if you can start anytime in the future, then you can go to project tab, project information, start day, that today, the day I record the video. You can start a month later. For example, here, May 1st, and then select OK. So your schedule will move and start at May 1st. And now, when you do the level resources, to make sure you are not over allocating resources that you don't have, that's the bottom line. You go to that, go to the resource tab in here, resource tab. And then you can select if you only concerned about the mention, because the mention may be the people that difficult to procure. Helper, I can go to anywhere to grab. Then you can select specific resources, in this case, for example, mention or helper, to allocate and level out. However, if you want to level all of resources, helper and mention all, then you can see the, say it level all, go ahead to do that, level entire project, level. And then you can see, observe the project certain date, change, it highlight your graph, 5 or less mention, 2 or less helper, and now your schedule is 20 days, project 20 days from 16 days. And they also highlight where, which activity had to move to meet the resource constraint. Make sense? So 20 days. So it is exactly to the solution we do by hand with the series method 20 days and Brooks method 20 days. If you don't like that, you want to clear, yes, go back to original without considering the resource constraint. Then you can select, you see that, clear leveling entire project. So you can clear it, go back to 16 days. Make sense? If you level, it will be considered the resource constraint. Let's see that. Or you clear leveling, you can there. Of course, you can do the different option, leveling option here. You can change what kind of level you have. What is the ordering of priority that you do, or you just follow standard algorithm that set in Microsoft project, or you can do something else. Okay. So with that, you can be level or not level, depends on what you're looking at. Leveling, it needs 20 days to meet the resource constraint. If you clear level, it's 16 days. However, your schedule is not feasible unless you need to provide more extra people. For example, it needs at least 4 helpers instead of 2. It needs at least 8 helpers, 8 mention, not 5. With that, I hope you know how to do the resource load the schedule in Microsoft project.